Turkey stands with one foot in Europe, the other in Asia, but her eyes are on the West. The Muslim religion was disestablished 25 years ago by Kemal Atatürk, father of the Turks. Some of the old mosques became museums, but the power of religion still has its influence on Turkish life. Today, 98 out of 100 Turks profess the Muslim faith. Side by side with the old Turkey, there stands a new Turkey, planned and started by Atatürk. His revolution changed the structure of Turkish life. But to change the economic basis of Turkish life is a long-term program. It is not made easy by Turkey's strategic position. Istanbul on the Bosphorus controls the entrance to the Black Sea, the only Soviet outlet to the Mediterranean. Expenditure on the armed forces for 12 years devoured nearly half the national budget. Thus, armed neutrality weakened Turkey nearly as much as war weakened other countries. The more Turkey spent on defense, the less she could spend on economic development. Military service was compulsory, and at one time 1 million men were under arms, men uprooted from farms and factories by the great threat of war. Though they needed trucks for commerce, the Turks had to spend their money on military lorries. Tanks that might be needed against aggression took precedence over tractors that were needed to raise the standard of living. The health services of the country, by Western standards, were backward, for the men and money needed to develop them, as usual, were devoted to the armed services. The concept of child welfare was almost unknown. Ragged and neglected children were familiar sights. Atatürk had made primary education compulsory and free, but there were not enough schools or teachers. Though Turkey is still poor, it has great potential wealth in its soil, which produces tobacco, figs, cotton, wheat. To increase farm production is today's most important task of the Marshall Plan in Turkey. Over most of the country, methods of cultivation are long outmoded. More efficient methods of watering are needed to offset the effects of seasonal droughts. Human hands set the speed of work. Work which in more developed countries is done by machines. What machines there are old and out of date. Much of Turkey's produce perished before it could reach a market, and bad storage lost much of the grain. Yet with greater production, Turkey's crops could be sold to the industrial countries of Europe, could earn the currency which she must have for buying the capital goods to develop her resources, and for buying the consumer goods that people need and want. The farmer's history is typical. He had his oxen and grew crops for his own use. What little was over, he sold in the local market. An entirely different story is being written across the rich plains of Turkey by a younger generation operating Marshall Aid farm machinery. Mechanization of agriculture is increasing yield per acre and per man. The symbol of the new economy is the tractor. To assemble, to service and maintain a tractor demands new skill. So the peasants of yesterday are becoming the technicians of today. The Industrial Revolution started by Kemal Atatürk is finally underway. The sons of herdsmen are learning the techniques of modern farming. For this generation, words like horsepower will have nothing to do with horses. Agricultural colleges and tractor schools are being developed rapidly all over the country. Modern farming is a combined operation based on the knowledge of scientists, the plans of economists, and the skill of trained technicians. A good plan can be wrecked by something as simple as the wrong kind of seed. Each soil and climate needs different sorts of seed and different methods. Each herd of cattle needs scientific breeding. Bulls imported from the United States and Great Britain are raising the quality of Turkish herds. Primitive methods of retaining and using water have been one of the greatest handicaps to the development of good farming. The horse, blindfolded, thinks he's getting somewhere. And the horse is, in a way. He's getting as far as the farmer. And that's no farther than their respective ancestors did a couple of thousand years ago. There are better solutions than a blindfold horse. The dam prevents flooding in the rainy season and gives water for irrigation in the dry. At the same time, the dam's hydroelectric plant can generate power. Oil and gas have to be imported into Turkey. Needs are growing steadily every day. If there is petroleum in Turkey in sufficient quantities, as in Romania to the north and Iran and Iraq to the east, it will be tapped. The Turkish engineers, aided by American technicians, are drilling. The Turkish army is also doing some drilling, though not for oil. With so many men in uniform, the army has to extend and maintain telegraph and telephone. All forms of communication are difficult. What looks like a rutted cart track is in fact part of the main road between the capital Ankara and Istanbul. Over 14,000 miles of road are to be surfaced. Where roads have been surfaced, it is the traffic which seems out of date, symbolizing the old Turkey and the new. The present railroads are inadequate to get farm produce to market and raw materials to the port. Economic development will choke itself unless more tracks and double tracks are laid. The railroad and highway systems are being overhauled to cope with the increased traffic resulting from Marshall aid. Towards this, the Marshall Plan has given $14 million of road machinery and the technical aid of a 12-man commission. With better communications, Turkey's vast mineral wealth can be developed. The big copper fields at Ergani at the headwaters of the Tigris still contain an estimated 1,600,000 tons. The fields were first mined by the ancient Hittites, and in exactly the same places, the richest deposits are still to be found. Turkey has the richest reserve of high-quality chrome in the world. Used in the making of high-speed steels, armor plating, and ferroalloys, chrome is a raw material that the United States needs. For Turkey, it is a valuable source of foreign currency. But after minerals are dug out of the earth, they must be refined. And for that, power is needed. On transmission lines and the construction of steam and hydroelectric plants, the Marshall Plan is spending over $6.5 million. This will more than double the Turkish power supply. At Karabuk, not far from the Black Sea, Turkey has had, since 1939, an integrated steel plant. But the facilities aren't well balanced or complete. The steel-making process is not streamlined from mill to consumer. The process is being remolded, improved, and modernized. With this achieved, output can be doubled. That sounds big, but it isn't compared with the needs of the country. Zonguldak, a few years ago, was a small mining town with a port on the Black Sea looking across to the Soviet Union. The coal miners are the men on whom the future of industrialized Turkey rests. Most of the miners are peasants who work in the mines for a period and then go home to their fields. To get the maximum production, a body of full-time skilled miners must be recruited. This is one reason why men are provided with good meals at the pithead canteens. And they have their own brand of Turkish delight. Today, the harbor of Zonguldak is humming with activity. It provides a good example of the way the Marshall Plan brings different men and machines together in a common task. The port is being developed by a Dutch firm to keep pace with coal production. Machines and technical aid are paid from Marshall Plan funds. The grab is American. The man in the cab, a Turk. This is only the beginning of a process which will continue to grow long after Marshall aid is ended. It works both ways. From Turkish ports will go the coal to help other European countries produce heavy equipment. With the money she gets from her coal, this heavy equipment can be bought by Turkey. The American truck loaded with British machinery to modernize a Turkish mine is important not only in itself, but in the chain of reactions it will produce. That is the purpose of the Marshall Plan, to help people to help each other.